Harvey Daniels, I've known you for 25 years. So you have had quite the sterling career. And I've known you with so many different iterations and projects you've worked on, but I'm really interested, and my audience is going to be interested to hear about Harvey Daniels, the beginning, and where it all started, and how you kind of wound up in residential real estate sales. So give us a little backstory, please.
Yeah, that's a funny story. I have a transplant from New York, so I went to University of Miami 100 years ago, and I decided to, I just loved real estate. My mother was in real estate, and I just loved it. And I have a whole thing for architecture and design, so I've always been kind of fascinated by it and buildings. Um, I started to, get very interested in new development when Miami started a new development. My first position was, believe it or not, in a building called Il Villaggio that was on Ocean Drive. That was
Yeah,
developed by Multiplan, and it was really cool because in those days, Len, that was the days of like, Madonna and Johnny Versace and everything on Ocean Drive and Irene Marie models. And I would,
sure.
listen, I was working at the sales gallery at Il Villaggio, which is right on Ocean Drive,
Yeah.
and it was the day Johnny Versace was shot. I remember, when I was working
Wow.
there when I first started. So this goes way back, but my first position was actually I was hired as an assistant in sales for the with one of the top producing guys who does what I do now for them. And then, I guess I must have been doing something right because they made me sales very, very quickly, like the first month after I started. And then I started to, just make sales. And that was also a really cool time because you had all of this money coming into Miami. Like you had,
Yeah.
we sold to David Geffen, we sold to Donatella bought, I believe, originally. It was the owners of Starbucks, but like there was all this very cool like money coming into Miami and celebrity coming into Miami at the time. So there was good times. That was my first position in the industry, and then from there, it went on and on.
Yeah, that was those were late '90s. Yeah, those were really glorious days on South
Yeah.
Beach and Miami Beach in general. It was wild. It was a wonderful time. So somewhere along the line, you must have had a mentor or two. Can you speak to any one or a couple of individuals who really kind of gave you the confidence and support to take you from an assistant to the next chapter?
Oh wow. That's there's because it's funny, there's been so many journeys with it over the last 28 years in doing this,
Yeah,
and there's been so many people that have come, who are all still in my life, but have, been a bigger part of it at certain times during certain eras of and moments going back. I mean, look, one of my favorite people in the industry that I worked with, I was hired by Craig Robbins to sell Aqua on Allison Island, and I became very,
mm,
very close with Stacy Robbins, Craig's sister.
yeah.
And she and I partnered up for a few years, and we did a lot together. So I would say I learned a lot from Stacy, and I admire Stacy very much. She was always someone who closed a deal, and I would listen and learn a
Mhm.
lot from her. And we had a very good we had a good several years together in business and of course friendship always. But I definitely learned a lot from her, and I liked her closing technique and her toughness, and that was kind of something that I think I picked up and helped me along the way. Um, there's been many others, but I would say Stacy certainly does stand out to me. I talk to periodically, but we're still I would say very close.
Do you Yeah, as a matter of fact, I bump into Stacy all the time. We just happen to live in the same building of all things.
Oh, you guys,
Uh,
okay, sure,
yeah,
sure.
1000 Venetian, yeah.
My girlfriend
Um,
Anna
s-
Cheryl lives there.
oh, she lives 2 floors below me.
That's
Absolutely.
my that's my that's my sister.
I
Yeah.
know. I know. As a matter of fact, I bumped into her this morning. I said I was going to be doing this with you today. She said,
Ah,
"Oh
that's
my
cool.
God, said, give Harvey a kiss." So do you remember your very first sale and what that felt like? Do you
Oh
remember?
my gosh. All I remember, and this is like, wow, this is a while ago. Well, my first sale was at Bellagio, because that was really my first building that I did. And I remember, I think it was a 2 bedroom, and it was in one of the O 03 units, I believe, which actually faced the park. on Ocean Drive, which faced Loomis
Sure.
Park, which was like really cool, to have that
Yeah.
like sort of Central Park view, we used to call it.
Right.
But I remember I had sold it, and it was one of the last remaining units at the time, and it was I sold it for like, and it was higher than the other sold, which was at the time I think like $480,000, which was like a significant number for a 2 bedroom at the time. Now it's like that's a
Nothing.
5% deposit I take on an apartment. But
Yeah.
it's but you go back and you look at it and you think about, wow, now it's a $4 million apartment or 3 million, whatever it is. But it felt good because made the sale, and then I had a $10,000 commission coming to me, and I was like, wow. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you go back when you're younger and you think about, that first check you make, or this first unit that you sell and how it felt, but it felt great. I mean, it was really cool to do it. It made me want to do more, which I did.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. So let's just so just to give a comparison. So what real estate was selling on Ocean Drive at 15th Street of Bellagio, was it 325 a foot, 350 a foot, something like that. Today it's 10 times that amount. I don't know, something like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, it is the whole. We're now units in Miami Beach are selling for 5,000 a foot, 4,000 a foot. I'm launching buildings, on Brickell right now that are 2,500 a foot, 3,000. I mean, you're seeing bigger numbers that you've never seen before. But it's cool when you've been in the industry as long as I've have. You've kind of seen it all, and you've ridden the waves of just crazy numbers. I remember when Apogee launched, it was, they're like, oh, you're never going to get 800 a foot, 800 a foot. I mean,
I
can you imagine?
remember.
So yeah, I
I
mean, listen,
remember.
I did the Zaha Hadid building, and that was, everybody thought I was nuts, when I had that. But we took us a little time, but we did it. So there's a lot of stories we could talk about that, Len. But
So I want to, yeah. So listen, so recognizing that you've worked on so many different projects, whether it was downtown and Miami Beach and so many different neighborhoods, um, you're sought by so many different developers for your experience and expertise. So if you were giving counsel to a developer today, how would you help? What would be the Harvey Daniels recipe for the most interesting components that need to be part of the mix for a successful high end condominium project today? What would be the Harvey Daniels recipe?
well, the first thing I would say is I think it's important to have a brand. I would tell any developer, if they have the opportunity to brand their building, then I would highly advise that you do that. I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of brands. I'm launching the Mandarin Oriental, for example. That's a great brand that's coming on the market very soon. Um, so for me, I would say I would advise that branded real estate is better than not branded real estate when it comes to development. Particularly hospitality brand. I mean, I think it's really cool that you have designers doing buildings, and that's very cool and fun and sort of in vogue in a way. But I think if you look at if you really want the developer to I think build something where you have continued value and deep appreciation over the years based on data. The branded hospitality, branded real estate, I think is where it's at. And
So
there's very few brands for that. But that would be my advice to say, depending on the property, of course, we're talking about high end.
So, how would you help define? You and I have been around for a long time doing this, and our definition of luxury, let's say in 2000, is demonstrably different today in 2023 in terms of an audience, an affluent audience that you need to attract. How would you frame in 15 or 20 years the difference of the definition of high end luxury today versus what it used to be?
Wow. Whew. Well, I think gosh, I mean, I guess the way I would describe that is you're seeing, as the city evolves, for example, I mean, every really now it's happening every 6 months. But if you go back when I started, the city, it didn't have global brands, it didn't have incredible architects from all over the world. Now you're seeing more architects. You're seeing design and architecture and major players from around the world. I think it's interesting to see how it has evolved, in terms of um, just how exciting it is that we're seeing incredible. We've never seen architecture the way we're seeing it right now. I mean, Miami's really on the map, so that's really cool. It's finally come on the map. It was funny when we were selling south of Fifth over the years. We were selling, building after building that we've done. I could take you through the beach. I could take you through Brickell downtown. All of it, even going into the
Yeah.
Grove, for example. I mean, for me, it's really cool to finally see Miami becoming a we're really I mean, everybody says, oh, it's a global city. And I think that's sort of a passe term. I'm kind of over it. It's kind of tired. But, we're finally seeing, you know, some very sophisticated things come to Miami in terms of development. I mean, I think we've had to very sadly lower our expectations when you come to shop for a condo in Miami in a lot of ways, because there hasn't over the years, like, there's very few really, really great product. I mean, there's just so much
Mm.
mediocre product. That's what I think. But now you're starting to see some really amazing stuff come that we never thought would, Miami's like, it's finally made it. I mean, look, there's going to be a Mandarin Oriental that's going to be, it's going to be the building. So it's exciting to see Miami have that. I mean, that's good for us.
You bet. Do you think that with the I know the project that you were so successful was the was one that was Thousand Museums, was a Hadid building. Do
Sure.
you think that that brought a wave of a new level of star architect that was, with her imprimatur and her almost validation of South Florida? Did that sort of begin to open the door for the next wave of very, very impressive architect, world renowned architects?
Oh, listen, I think it set the bar, Len, for all that. So yes, I do. Again, I think that, listen, it was successful, but it took a long time to become successful. And it wasn't because the building wasn't the building, or it wasn't the best design. It is. It was, listen, it takes more to check. There's more boxes to check just besides architect, and that has to be the right location. It has to have the right, a lot of ingredients that go into it. And 1000 Museum they were pioneers in that location. Still are in a
For
lot of
sure.
ways, I suppose, compared to others. But it took a long time to catch up. Now it's, untouchable right now. It's great. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
took, it took a long time to get there. So, when to me it's yes, I think that was the start of a lot of things, and then you started to see Rem Koolhaas do stuff in the Grove, and then this and then that, and it goes on and on and on. So so
Sure.
so the answer is yes, I do see that, but 1000 just took a while because, again, it had some boxes that needed checking that it took a while to check. You know.
Understood. Yeah, I mean, the vagaries of markets and all kinds of different conditions, and you were in the throes of COVID, in the middle of all of that. So, that's certainly recognizable. Let me pivot a little bit and let's talk about when you gather a team of agents to work with on a project, especially a very, very high end project. How do you begin to assess the talents and the kind of sensibility of coworkers on your team? I mean, listen, it's a high risk business for developers. They're fronting a lot of money, and they're very, very concerned about the folks that represent them. So when you've worked on so many high end projects, how did it all feel about putting teams together to basically best represent the developer in these projects?
I think that's a very, very cool question, and I like it a lot, because you're right. I've always felt that, look, this is a major asset that they're putting in. You're the face for this major asset, so you have to do everything right, and you have to have the right. Again, you have to check a lot of boxes for these guys, that develop these types of products, buildings. So look, for me, I'll give you an example. For me, it's really about there's a few different things that I look at. The most important thing that I look at is really what was you're as good as your last product. You're as good as your last building. So what have you sold? What have you done? What's the last building you've done? Have you sold buildings in the area that I'm selling? What is your sort of your circle that you work with? Do you work with the right demographics for the building? Do you have the right experience for the building? Again, when you say experience, it's not just how long have you been in development. It's about what have you sold and when was the last building you sold and how did you do? How did you do in the building? Were you one of the top sellers? Were you this, that? I mean, there's a lot of factors. But aside from experience, which obviously I think is obvious, I look at personalities, I look at energies, I look at style. There's a lot of things that I look at. I like to work with people in teams. I'm not a believer in competing, and I like people to pool commissions and work together as a team, work as one person, because I think the industry has evolved to that, where people should
Mm.
work together. I don't like competition in sales galleries. I think it's the wrong energy. I think it's the wrong message. And again, I'm talking about the high, very, very high end in the market because that's all I ever
For
do.
sure.
I don't do any project that isn't ultra high end.
Sure.
So in talking about my arena, it should always be a very elegant way to sell. There should always be a very friendly, warm energy in the environment that you're in. The brokers like that, the buyers like that. So aside from experience, obviously, I look at style, I look at personality, I look at connection and just overall energy. Really, it's important to me. Chemistry.
So, uh, so well said, and I think that's right. Our audience is residential real estate agents and developers, and everybody that kind of rubs elbows in our
Yeah.
business. Is there room for mentoring new agents that want to be a part of new development sales? It's very interesting statistic. More and more agents now, and I've canvassed most of the national brokerage firms, and more of their folks, of their agents, are beginning to get a lot more comfortable with new development sales. Now, that may have something to do with the shiny new penny, and buildings get older in different communities, especially in Miami, and people don't want to have to deal with lots of renovations and on and on and on. Is there room in your arena, in your sandbox, to help mentor young agents to kind of train them as to how to really be an exceptional on-site agent, sales associate?
You know, Look, probably it depends. There are some ways yes, and some ways no. To be honest,
Mm.
but let's talk about the yes. So how we would do that is look. I mean, Len, I get a lot of calls every week for people wanting jobs, and people think, oh, I really like to do
I'm
development. And
sure.
I want to do. I mean, I get a lot of jobs. I get a lot of job offers. I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of job applicants. Sorry. Um, you know, Look, and I would say the majority of them don't have the experience and haven't done it before and just not sure it would work. But occasionally, you do get people that are good, and then you get people who are, maybe newer in the business but hungry to do something like this. And if that's the case, then, at times we've hired a junior associate. I'm hiring right now a sales associate who could work at Mandarin with the team, for example. That's great experience. That'll get their name, your name will be in lights if you're attached to that project. Um, you know, so there are some opportunities for some, sort of beginner, I would say, agents, but these are agents who are very dedicated, very hungry, very motivated, to work in a development to do this. So yes, you can work as a sales assistant on some teams. Some teams need it. There are also some top agents who have teams within the development where they work aside the agent and help the agent, and there's an array of things they can do for them. So occasionally it does come up, but ultimately I would say that it's not as common per se as you
Yeah.
see in the general industry world. We're house cats, not street cats. You know my analogy on that, Len, right? So
No, let me
like,
hear
well, I'll tell you. This is like I've always had this thing. So like, there's a house cat and a street cat, right? So I consider myself a house cat because I'm in development where I like to go and stay in my house and I like to entertain in my house and people come to my house and see me and I entertain and I sell all the beautiful things in my house. And I have work in a sales center and I sell a development versus a street cat who, oh, you want to spend $5 million? Well, then I'm going to take you all over Miami. I'm going to run all over the place. I'm going to take you to everywhere you can buy a $5 million apartment. And that's one way to do it. I am more of a house cat versus a street cat. And listen, it works for some people to be a house cat. And it's like, I could never be a street cat. That's not my thing. But I know a lot of street cats who are really great at what they do and they make a lot of
Right.
money and they would consider what I do. Oh, I don't want to sit in prison all day. I mean, it is what it is. So I'm a house cat. I'm just a really good house cat. I've been a house cat
Yeah,
for
you are.
28 years. So for me, yes, I prefer the house cat thing. And I think, you know, with the business, I think there's a lot of people that think, oh, I'm going to do development because it's so much easier and so much more, comfortable. And, rather than doing that. And the truth is, at times it is, and at times it isn't. It's just like everything.
True.
So I think there's a lot of things in the biz, a lot of people in the business that think that development is just it's an easier situation or this or this. And you know what? It's not. It can be, and it's when times are good, yes, and when times aren't good, you have to roll up your sleeves and throw nets all over the world and get business. And the pressure's
Yeah.
on you, and you have a gun to your head from a developer. Believe me, I've had them on me over the years, on and off, so I know what it's like. So that's kind of my take on it. But yes, to help people, we're happy to help people when the opportunity is there, and we're open to it, and depends on the project.
Understood. So let me ask you a question about this market today, the marketplace today. 2021 was unprecedented, just was um, uh, post-COVID or towards the end of the rash of COVID. And then we kind of transitioned into 22, good, not great, not as good as. And now we're in sort of coming to the end of 2023, and it's a challenging market all around. And yet, there seems to be still really significant demand for high end new development. How are you finding the difference today in terms of wrangling these affluent buyers who, I mean, it's a buyer's market now for sure, um, and they have lots of options. I mean, not. I know there's not that much available inventory today, but the individual who is looking 2 and 3 and 4 years out for a project to come to fruition, um, how are you how are you talking to them today versus how you had talked to them a year ago or so, or is it the same?
Okay, well, that's a monster question comment, but here's my. Let me start by saying COVID. You know, COVID was a little different because back in 21, COVID was a little different because I was delivering 1,000 museum during COVID. COVID 1,000 museum finished, so here I was sitting with a brand new building, clean, empty, never been lived in, gorgeous, done, ready for occupancy during COVID. So COVID was wonderful because I had the product ready where they could buy and move in now, and it worked.
Yep.
So timing is like everything, right, Len? That's how it goes.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that worked very well for me, during COVID. Um, versus, now, I think people are very, it's a different situation. I will tell you in reference to how I see the market with high end. I mean, I agree with you that high end is very strong right now. Um, I'm anticipating. We haven't launched. I'll give you an example. We haven't launched Mandarin yet. We're going to soon, but
Yep.
I mean the calls and the people coming in and requesting residences and immediate appointments. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. I feel like I'm back in, I'm feeling back in our heyday, Len, when we
Sure.
were rocking, right? Back, so
Yep.
so I'm feeling it again, which I'm loving. I'm not saying I don't, but I'm seeing a very strong market in high end. Um, I think the demand is there. I think people want the best of the best, and I think I've also sort of operated in a bit of a bubble because I only do really high end development. Um, and it's a good time for it right now. It's a good time. And there's a lot of interest, and I don't see that slowing down. I think it's going to stay strong for a while. And I say that sort of with confidence because I don't think there's a lot out there that's really great. We're not dealing with, thousands of units that are all coming on the market that are at this level, the level that I sell. The level that I sell is really,
Sure.
it's the ultimate high end, and there's very few buildings and very few product like it. So for me, I think that puts the market, gives us an advantage because there's so little out there that's really great, and there's buyers that want the best of the best. So, that gives me an advantage that I like. What can I
I would
tell you?
think so. 28 years in the business, having sold primarily the highest of the high end, do you have, I don't know how else to say this, a following where people may have bought something from you, let's say 5 or 6 years ago, and kind of reach out and say, Harvey, what's going on today? Maybe looking to do something different. Is that part of the legacy of being in the business 25 plus years? On that
Yeah,
you have all these
yeah.
guys coming around again. I mean,
Yeah, for sure. Then, it was funny. I just got off the phone with clients of mine from 1000 Museum, buyers
Right.
who've been calling me, and they're like, Harvey, oh my God, I'm hearing about Mandarin or this or whatever. And I mean, yes, I have taken buyers from all over the coast who I've worked with for years over and over, and they've come in, but also, Len, besides the direct buyers that I work with, I tell you who my real contracts and my real bread and butter is. It's brokers and the broker community. And I have worked, which I'm very proud of and happy to say, I have worked really flawlessly, I think, with the brokerage community in Miami. And I'm friends with everyone, and people know me and associate me with big, good projects because
Yeah.
I've worked with them consistently over the years and have done very well for them. Very well. They've done great for their buyers. So I've taken a lot of my brokers work with me from product to product to product to product. They follow me and come with me. If I'm launching a building and I call them, they're like, oh wow, we know it's going to be good because you're on it. I've been associated with, I think, very successful projects, and I have taken those brokers and some of the buyers too, for sure. But brokers are my bread and butter. That's who I work with. It's like when you're a house cat, you work with clients. All your clients, you database, you email all your clients on your database and your email blast and blah blah. My database and my emails, all my brokers, because my brokers follow me from they're my real bread and butter. They're my clients. So I have worked with buyers, yes, but I have taken my brokers with me from project to project to project, and they have been loyal to me and worked with me, and that's been great.
That's really a great transition because, at Dash, what we have done is we've created a platform whereby agents can see accurate and up to date only new development projects, pre and new development projects. Manager, I'm sure, will be one of them, where they can go access all this information, all unbranded, all reformatted for social media deployment. And so the connectivity of Dash to, for a Harvey Daniels project, for them to go access it easily is what we're developing and what we have developed at Dash. But that's really interesting because we wind up talking to a handful of high performing agents like yourself who've been doing it for a long time, and they continue to talk about how difficult it has been for them to access accurate and up to date information, what's going on with a development. And by the way, no small part of that is having to deal with Dropbox and what's been defined as the necessary evil. Whereas Dropbox as a file sharing platform is good for lots of businesses, not so good for our business. It's very kind of medieval in its
Well,
inception for what we do. That's a challenge for agents today. Dash is hopefully the antidote to all of that kind of stuff, sharing
for sure.
information
Well, Len,
easily.
look, I work with Fortune International Group. So Fortune, what's great about that is we are not only a brokerage firm and we do this, but we're also developers, and I tend to handle Fortune developments. So what's great is when I want to get market research and I want to know what's going on, I have it all right here because we're doing projects in Broward County, we're doing projects in Miami, we do projects in Miami
Yep.
Beach, we do projects everywhere. So I have all the data of what's going on now, what's happening, who's buying, who's not buying, what countries are buying, who countries are not buying, what markets are working. So when I launch a building or when I go and I sit with the developer and try to get the job of the developer, I can sit there and say, hey, here's what's going to work for you right here. This market's not going to work for you. These are the kind of units you need to do here, not this. This is why. This is who you should work with. This is who you should, or this is who you should not work with. This is why you should work
Sure.
with us, and blah, blah, blah. So, I have a lot of that data, I have access to everything. And it's because I have an amazing company I work for,
Yeah,
Works is
it's
great.
interesting. No, they're very special. As a matter of fact, I was with Edgardo on Friday. I'll be happy to let you know that he's going to have all of Fortune's projects that he develops and that he represents on the Dash platform. And you're
Awesome.
right. Yeah, yeah, no. So that meeting just happened on Friday, this past Friday.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, he's a big fan of Dash, and he's a very interesting guy. And Fortune's a very interesting company in that I think they're singular in terms of being a developer and also a brokerage firm that represents other developers. So he has a very, very interesting take on the market. And actually, he's agreed to be on the podcast, which we're hoping to get him next
Oh,
week or the week after.
he'll be
So,
amazing with you on a podcast. He
no,
is so much
he's,
fun. He's the best speaker. He has an incredible sense of humor. He's an amazing, he's an
yeah.
amazing man.
So he really isn't. Again, somebody I've known and worked with for 25 years. Let me ask you. I want to pivot a little bit, Harvey, and talk about a little bit more about your philosophy about life and work. They say that life is not about what's happened to you, but how you respond to what's happened to you. Could you kind of take that thought and apply it to maybe something that's going on in your career, how you benefited, how you became more by maybe a certain circumstance in the business that opened your eyes to something that had not been open before?
Wow, that's an interesting thought. I'd have to really give that some thought, Len, and
You
see.
can.
I mean, look, I'm not sure how to really respond to that. I mean, for me, it's like life isn't always about work, I mean, it is, but although it can be, I mean, for me, for what I do, and I guess every street cat, house cat, whatever kind of cat you are, if you're in the real estate business, it's like you don't work, 9 to 5, you work 24/7, So for
Yep.
me, I have a bit of a workaholic, you know, kind of way of being, and I probably have to work on, and I have been working on balancing myself more from that. But
Sure.
it's funny. The older I get, the harder I'm working. It's really kind of funny because it used to be like the other way around. But I'm just in it to win it right now, And
Yeah.
and for me, I think that the one thing that some of the things that teach me to sort of get balanced and slow down. Listen, I'm into fitness, I'm into health, I'm into wellness, I'm into all that stuff.
Sure.
I'm one of these crazy self-care guru people. Like I'm doing infrared saunas like 5 days a week. I'm doing like I'm nuts about. If I'm not working, I'm at the infrared sauna. Like that's what I'm doing. Anyone who
That's
knows me will
interesting.
tell you that. So I try to do my best to keep my balance at that, but I'm definitely a workaholic lately, and the
You
older
know,
I'm
I
getting,
it,
I'm seeing that happen.
It's funny that you're saying that. Is that the handful of people that we've had on the podcast have said that they're working harder, not that they're working smarter, and I think that experience has to deal with that. Working smarter is something that it takes time to perfect. Let me kind of bring this to a little bit of a conclusion. And ask the following question. So here you are, 28 years into your career. And let's go back 20 years. What would you say? This is a time machine question. What would you say to Harvey Daniels 25 years ago? Lessons learned, impediments in terms of how you thought then and what you know today. How would you begin to talk to the 25-year-old Harvey Daniels, for example, or the 22-year-old Harvey Daniels?
Wow. Len, you got these questions today. Um, you know, I probably would say that I would probably advise to really stay focused and be more patient and stay in your lane, and be more patient because I was a very impatient. I was been, and I'm known to still be very impatient at times, but I would advise to really stay in your lane. And you know, real estate is, it was interesting because when I started, I always knew I liked development, wanted to do buildings and stuff. But you go through training and you learn the business, and then you learn MLS, and you go through all this stuff, right? So you're like, okay, am I going to do general real estate, or am I going to do this or that? There's all these different commercial real estate, right? What roads you're going to go on. You're like at a crossroads when you enter the business, and going way back, when I knew I was going to do development, I guess there were times where I said, oh, maybe I should try this, or maybe I should try that, or maybe the building I was selling at the time wasn't selling fast enough. I was like, well, maybe I should start selling houses again, or I should do this. And I went through those phases. We all, we do this. We think when we're younger and going through things because we want it to be successful and want to be successful fast. It takes
Yeah.
time. I would say
Mm.
slow down, focus, stay in your lane, keep moving forward. So that would be the advice and direction I would I would give myself
Well,
because it does
listen.
pay
It's
off.
listen. Yeah,
So
no. I think that that's right. Stay in your lane is, and by the way, obviously your career and the path of your career, the trajectory has really been quite special and unique in so many ways. There are not that many Harvey Daniel types
thank you.
that in this business. It's been quite the sterling career for, let's call it
Thank
just
you.
just the first chapter, right? Many chapters,
Yeah.
many
It's
chapters
I
to
got more
follow.
to go. I got more to go.
I know you got a lot of gas in the tank, Harvey. Thank you so much for your time today, and I'll see you very, very soon, I'm sure.
For
Thanks
sure,
again.
Len. Thank you. This was a blast. Thank you so much.